probably 15 years ago, people were trying to, it was sort of in the height of my BTC career and racing, and people used to try and get me to drive historics, and I'd go, no, I just want technology, I want the next fastest thing, and I'd actually fallen out of love with motorsport a little bit, just with the politics and the backstabbing and everything which you get in modern motorsport. And I got invited to the Revival, and I said, oh, I've got a free weekend, so I'll go down there. And as soon as I walked through the gates, I looked around and I went, I now get it. I now get it. Team Dynamics started really probably to further my racing career. I was coming out of, or just about getting into touring cars as an independent privateer. And there was an opportunity with the demise of Vickley Motorsport in the early 90s for different reasons. And there's a trio of, there was Ray Bell, my dad, and Steve Soper was involved, who took over the running of the company, created Team Dynamics out of the ashes of Vickley Motorsport to help Tim Harvey win the championship. They won the championship, which was great. So I went into it with Ray and Alex Portman, and then started off or continued the early days of my BTC career with the BMWs. It's sort of gone on from there, up and down. There's probably 5 or 6 key points over the 30 years I was in it. I thought my career was over and it had finished, but then something just pops up a month before or a week before, and we managed to get going again. And then we sort of, I went away for a few years driving for other teams, other championships, against Dynamics in a few teams in the British Championship. And then I came back with Honda, really. I started getting a relationship with Honda in 2003. This facility was built for the Honda British Touring Car effort, really, which lasted for 15 years. Honda finished the end of 20, so we've sort of been rebuilding a little bit since then. We had a couple of years with them, staying as a private effort, but then we've sort of morphed into. So this is Bay 1, as we call it, which has got the Accelerate Hyundais here, now based out of here, which is their operation. They work out of our place. We offer some engineering input and help. Just with our experience, we've been in touring cars for a long, long time. So these are cutting-edge, next-generation touring cars, featuring all the latest hybrid systems, Cosworth hybrid systems. Overcomplicated pieces of kit as far as I'm concerned. When you compare them to, a classic car, you'll see we've got some out the back, and the difference if you have a look you want to have a look inside them. If you have a look, with all the hybrid systems in them, there's not much room to sort of if you drop anything in there, you've got to know where it's gone. All the hybrid systems on the left, all the controls, obviously drivers based on these are right-hand drive. Fuel tanks based behind them. It's the modern NGTC regulations for BTC, so the regs have been sort of generating through the last, since they came in 12, so the last 12 years, and they've sort of worked from there, but they're serious pieces of kit now. We were based in post-World War II prefab units down in Pershore, which did the job. We started in a 1,500 or 1,300 square foot unit. We worked out of there when we were running the Nissan Super Touring. And then we sort of moved into the one next door and the one next door for that and the one next door for that. We ended up in about just under 6,000 square foot. We found this place 8 to 9 years ago, and it was an old foundry, drop forge foundry, so it didn't look like this at all. It was a proper wreck. But we saw an opportunity, and we wanted to build a facility that Honda then and our sponsors would be proud of, and they wanted to come and be a part of, and they buy into. It was a real pleasure to work with them because they were really passionate about the product. You know, and they did multiple things, whether it be cars, bikes, marine, you know, power equipment. They were involved in all sorts of things. So we had one story, because we used to be kept on a real tight leash, you know, budget-wise, with all the sponsors do they. And so we used to try and do things for other sides of Honda to try and tap into without being mercenary. And one was power equipment. And so we proposed building a mean mower, it was called, it got nicknamed, which is basically, it had a Firestorm engine in it, 600cc Firestorm engine, and did this. It was just meant to be a gimmick to start with, and then they looked and there was no world records for speed on a mower, so they did this, and they broke the world record at about 113 mile an hour in it. It had to cut grass as well, not at 113 mile an hour. So we did this, and then they milked that. It went on Jay Leno, went to the States, everywhere. And then a Dutch company built a V8 one with a full roll cage on it, and they beat them. They did 130 some odd mile an hour. Honda came back to us and they said, "Oh, we want the record back." So, and I said, "Okay, we'll build a big roll cage and everything." And they said, "No, it's got to look like a mower." And this was the thing. So we almost built a supercar. So you're lying down on it, and we went to the Louts ring where they did. They got it up to 151 mile an hour, which before the tires blew out, but it did it. Well, here we've got John Minshaw and Phil Keen's championship-winning GT3, which is owned by a customer, and it's on the list to. It's been in storage for about 10 years, so it's on the list to rebuild. Before that, we're rebuilding an RSR for the same customer, 997 RSR, which is still in a million pieces and undergoing some major amount of TLC. This car is 16 years old, so everything's out of life. The seats, the belts, the fuel tanks, everything's got to be crack tested, everything's got to be stripped down, so you've really got to strip it back to the basics and start again, and then replace everything. You know, there's a lot of things, all the critical safety components you've got to replace, uprights, drive shafts. The costs can add up, but you get a beautiful piece of kit at the end of it. So the target with this one is to race in the Endurance Legends in the Peter Auto Series in Europe. This is a TCR Audi, which we converted to hand controls for a paraplegic driver. He is a serious customer. He's a former Olympic medalist at skiing, so he's not short on bravery. And he's had some good results in it. So we came up with a new hand control system for it, and we've been running him that in various series, basically to give him track time around UK circuits, seeing where we can progress him to. This beast is Graham Chilton's Zytek, which Max and Tom raced in all over actually, European Le Mans Series. The target with this is to rebuild it. We want to try and run it at the Silverstone Festival, first time. It'd be nice to run it up the hill, but probably won't be ready in time. Again, a lot of this is good to go. It hasn't got to go through the sort of major heart surgery as the RSR, but we've got all the safety critical stuff we've got to do, crack testing and everything. So it'll race in European Endurance Legends in Peter Auto Series again. That's the target, and it's a quick car. It was very quick in its day, and it could take some scalps. So Max and Tom will get a run in that later in the year. So this was built as a bit of a shop showroom, just for showcasing some of our bits. But then we building some sims for customers as well, and sell the sims. And I'll come and have a practice here if I'm a bit old school driver. You ask a lot of older drivers, and it's getting your head around a sim. It's definitely a different breed of people, and the sim to racing does work. There's guys doing it, Norbert Mischlitz, and there's a new guy, Chris Lullum, who's doing radicals this year, uber quick, but he's in the Red Bull Sim team. So it does work, going that way. But going back from old school day, because to me it's still a game, and you haven't got that fear factor. If you go off, you're going to hurt yourself, which was probably half the adrenaline rush of why you do it, isn't it? This used to be the fab bay because we used to build all our own shells in-house, and we converted it back to a little prep shop just for these classics. Now we're getting on to Goodwood territory. So this is a Mark I Cortina which we've built from the ground up. This, hopefully, we're trying to get ready for Dijon next weekend for a customer to get out there. Just a bit of a challenge with the paperwork. This is our in-house Cortina, which was ours. Again, another self-built car. A couple of Peter Smith's cars, Mark II Capri and Escort in various guises. And then this is a Cortina. This one's built by Jordan Racing, so JRT. They've done a lovely job of that. Nice colour as well, so I'm impressed with that. Probably 15 years ago, people were trying to, it was sort of in the height of my BTC career and racing, and people used to try and get me to drive historics, and I'd go, no, I just want technology, I want the next fastest thing, and I'd actually fallen out of love with motorsport a little bit, just with the politics and the backstabbing and everything which you get in modern motorsport. And I got invited to the Revival, and I said, I've got a free weekend, so I'll go down there. And as soon as I walked through the gates, I looked around and I went, I now get it. I now get it. And I challenge that to anybody who's in any doubt. They just need to go that, because the Revival, it's the blue ribbon event for any classic racing in the world. So, and that's completely converted me. So now I do love the modern stuff, but I probably love this even more, just because it's old school. And driver input is worth so much, and they move around, and it's pretty cool as well, isn't it? So yeah, but it made me fall back in love with the sport. It made me realise why I fell in love with the sport, 35 years ago. So what appeals about the classic side? It's just everything's bare and everything's raw, isn't it? And it's the driver input is paramount. You can try and make a difference with the cars, where modern motorsport, with the data, or everything else, you're looking for such fractions of a second, and it's marginal, and I wouldn't say it's pretty. The racing in, say, BTC is brutal. It's to the purist, it's not pretty. It's entertaining for the crowds. But I think down at Goodwood and the other classic stuff, so we can be even more entertaining by what the cars are doing and the angles the cars are getting. And they can see the drivers, the crowds can physically see the drivers working so hard in there, in all the mixed conditions. It does make for phenomenal spectacle down there.
Hi, I'm Barry Plowman. I'm Technical Director at Team Dynamics Motorsport. Yeah, you've got two different ends of the scale really, haven't you? The old cars like the Cortinas and the Capri and the Escort we've got in there, they're kind of cars from my boyhood time. So I kind of grew up with them cars, and also when I started off working on them as well. So that bit I actually enjoy. It's like stepping back in time, regaining your youth again. The modern stuff is obviously a little bit more difficult and a lot more technical, and takes a lot more looking after than obviously the old stuff.
We've got actually 3 businesses based here. We've got Team Dynamics Motorsport. Well, we've got Accelerator in with us as well. But then we've obviously got Team Dynamics Wheels, which is a big part of the business. So some people, part of the company, work on the wheel side, of which we do the wheels for mainly a lot of motorsport, high-end tuning. So we do all the British touring car wheels, all the Australian supercar wheels, slightly different. So and various other race series around the world. Those are probably 2 of the most high-profile ones. The wheel side, my family business was Rimstock. We sold out that 8 or 9 years ago, and so I created DYN, which was Dynamics Automotive, about 4 years ago, to start the wheel side again, I've got some key people here, original people from Rimstock, who know wheels, know motorsport, know the tuning market, and sort of that's grown internally as a side to the race team, and now it's equally matches it, if not more, because they produce good products. And now going into the classics, we're obviously going into the classics with the wheel side as well, because we're starting to understand that better. There is a compromise with price, weight, and construction, and it's you work with the people of that championship to see what the race teams to see what they want. A lot of the time it's weight and strength, but some cost obviously does come into it as well in modern motorsport. So the BTC, they run a cast wheel, cast aluminium wheel, pressure cast, and we can make those pretty affordably. So they run out about £200 to the team, but Australia, they just want extra, so they want a forged aluminium wheel, and so they're running in about $1,000 to each team per wheel. So when they're smashing them over the curbs at Surfers Paradise, I don't get upset. We've actually had them coming back, both BTC and supercars, when they've had, because touring cars, it's all you get clashes, and it's a bit. The racing's pretty aggressive, with spokes missing out the wheels, and the drive's still finished. And one of the recent ones, they finished on the podium in supercars, so that was a good accolade. We were quite pleased with that. In here is what we call Bay 2. Bit quiet in here. We built it when we were doing Hondas to be a mirror bay of one for the car bays and everything. And then the wheels came along, we moved the wheels in here, and we sort of never farmed out into that. So a lot of the containers, we've got 40-foot containers all around the yard as well, and they're all pretty full of wheels. The regular movers are in here, and they say they can be going all over the world. And we just have what stock in, which we're going to move in the next month or so. A few trophies. We've given so many trophies away to charities and things over the years, but I suppose in BTC I had 360, so I'm told I had 360 podiums, which you can get multiple trophies for either winning and manufacturers and teams and that. So we've ended up, we've got containers full of them as well. So yes. Tyre bays. See, there's obviously BTC, and we've all got a load of historic stuff in there. Just tyres everywhere. So what we did on the wheel side as well is, because of our exposure to classic racing, we looked at some of the products we were using, and we ended up making a lightweight version of the classic Cortina wheel, and then that worked. And so then we've done another one, and we've done a Land wheel, and we've done a Mustang wheel. So this is on the wheel side, so our foray, we're looking at the classic side of the sport as well. So that's a new thing for us, and it's going really well. It's good. We make a good product, because a lot of the older products you buy are so over-engineered and either heavy or whatever. And people are after performance, so they're after weight. And so with modern technology and computer simulation, we can make them pretty light and strong these days. So that's a new thing for us. How did I get into racing? I wanted to race ever since, people want to be a fireman or an astronaut or whatever. And I can remember, for as long as I can remember, 4 or 5 years old, all I wanted to do was race, because my dad raced when I was young. Dad was always wrapped up in business. He was still passionate about the sport, and he took me to a few races when we were younger. And I never thought I'd do it. I can remember queuing up at Alton, getting autographs with the rest of them, and watching touring cars there, Gordon Spice, Jerry Marshall, Stuart Graham. They were all my heroes. And in fact, now racing against Stuart in the Gordon Spice Trophy is quite surreal all these years later on, and he's still quick. When I left school at 17, I didn't go to do A-levels or go to university. I just got a job in the tyre shop, and I bought a motocross bike because I just wanted to race anything, and it was the most affordable thing I could do for the biggest adrenaline rush. Did that for 4 years, didn't bounce very well, which you've got to be able to do on motocross bikes, and so my dad, out of desperation when I was about 21, got me into a car, not thinking I was going to go racing, but just to get me away from the bikes, because he knew that's where my heart was. And then we sort of did one thing or another. We were starting the wheel business at that point, and then it sort of just grew. And we supported it out of the business and our suppliers for the first probably 10 years of my career. And then we were lucky that it transformed and we managed to generate the sponsorship. And I think with racing and any professional racing, the lucky ones stay in the feast side, and a lot of others that you go from feast to famine very quickly. So I always maintained my job at the wheel factory just to keep myself a solid income coming in. And then if you got good drives in certain years, then that was lovely and you made hay. But then it was something to carry you through the lean years. But which I think prolonged my career and kept my feet on the ground, made me keep it real a bit, because you're still dealing with the guys on the shop floor. Hidden away here, we've got a couple of old BTCC cars. I said I hadn't got any, but I have got a couple tucked away. So we've got one of the old FK2s. This is a championship winning FK2 back from 2016, which we're waiting because the car was first eligible in 2012. So we've got to wait till 2032 before it's eligible for historics. Can't wait for that because it's a good car. And then we've got another one, a sister car of it just there, but that's a complete car. That's sort of 3/4 finished, but a work in progress. This might interest some people. Was apparently one of the McLaren Honda engines from '88. So the V6 turbo, twin turbo. So which is owned by another customer, and they've just asked us to look after it for them. So no internals, I think. But it's got a piece of history with it anyway, so. This was an FK2 Civic Type R, which was that was involved in an accident at Park Motor in pre-season testing in Spain, which was a bit like an airplane crash. So that's on the list to be rebuilt. For Matt Simpson, he was lucky boy that day. When Swindon were building all the Hondas, they built all the Type Rs which went everywhere in the world. And so the Type Rs that were bought in Japan were built in Swindon here in the UK. And this was one and they have a zero tolerance, the Japanese, they won't take any repairs or scratches or anything. And so this one, it was loaded onto a low loader. They lowered it too quickly and it creased the roof. Just put a V in the roof and broke the front windscreen. So they were going to crush it. They wouldn't take it, so they were going to crush it. And so they said, oh, can we use it on the track and everything? So we got it, repaired the roof and put a new screen in it, and it's sat there ever since. The only problem is it still talks to you in Japanese because it was for the Japanese market. So we thought we'd fixed it, and then we took it out again a little while back, and it still talks to you in Japanese, which none of us understand. So the various, all the trucks outside, as I said earlier, we do the hospitality. One's out in the Isle of Man at the moment because we do the hospitality for Honda and the BSB and the road racing. And so they're out at the Isle of Man at the moment. And then we run in here. We've got the 3D printers running day and night, which we used to make all our own components for touring cars. We still do for some of the touring cars. Used to fabricate things out of aluminium, and it was bits of bent aluminium and welded together or riveted together. And now you can do some fabulous pieces of kit. You know, for the Escort and the Capri, we've just done whole new systems.
Scares me sometimes.
You know, if you're going to create that out of fabricated aluminium, one, it wouldn't look as pretty, but two, it's just you can make it exactly what you want, or it's induction or whatever. You can just, and if you get it wrong, you just change it and do another one. the time-consuming thing is in the design rather than the making the component. So it's all done on a computer, but which means some of the arts of fabrication is a dying art, but it is what it is, unfortunately. I think that some of the components, we're looking at multiple components on the cars, and we do try and make them look period. They've got to be look period and appear period. But if we can make them in a stronger, better version of it, then yes, 100%, we will look at try and take it. Because some of the times it's safety. A lot of people got injured or killed in cars in the 50s and 60s, didn't they? And, touch wood, we don't want that anymore. So that's some of the 3D metal printed stuff we've done. And again, fabricating that out of aluminium. If you bend it, then you start again. When all we do is we push the button and it makes another one. It's amazing what you can do. We made it as the underdog. We came up as the underdog. Everyone loves the underdog, don't they? Everyone loved Mansell because he was the scrapper. And I always, when we were going to try to get independent wins in the 90s, I'd say to the sponsors and the guys in the team, I said, what do you want me to do? Just go for the independent win or just see how high we can get? And they went, just see how high we can get. And if the rest comes, then it's great.
Well, we started out obviously as the underdog in British touring car racing, and then obviously worked our way up through the ranks. But we did do it the very, very hard way. Obviously in the beginning, there was not equalisation on engines, tyres and all that sort of stuff. So a privateer literally was a privateer. It was like 2 tiers of racing, where in the modern era, everything's been equalised and everybody's got the same chance. So we did come up the hard way, which stood us in good stead for later on into our careers. Both me and Matt, you learn as you go along, as they say. We were very, very obviously creative in what we did. We were also very cautious, where the works teams would throw a load of money at it and make new bits every weekend. We had to be very, very certain before we moved on or changed a part or tried to update something that we got it absolutely right. And don't get me wrong, we didn't get it right all the time. But we've always been very, very good when we've got it wrong, realising very quickly and either going back a step or moving on.
We were racers, we charged ours and we delivered, we had fun along the way. Because it's about the ride, isn't it? In the late 90s with Max Power and then onwards with Halfords and Yuasa after that. We had some real good times, and we enjoyed the ride. It was stressful at times, really stressful, and there's a lot of pressure. They did it because they wanted to win, not because they wanted to be seen on the track, and everything around it. But you had to deliver off the track as well as on it.
It's been a bit of a crazy ride throughout the years, but it's been a good ride.